Welcome to EnigmaCast, nerds, and I got another banger for you tonight. And it's so good of a story, one of the best Bigfoot stories I've read, and I've read a lot. And I had to call in my boy, Sasquatch Steve Taylor.
That's right.
One-eyed wonder, most eligible bachelor in North New Jersey. Number one question I get asked all the time in my DMs. I thought when I got blow up, I got over 40,000 followers on Instagram. I thought that, you know what, that I'd have some hotties come at me, and it's always, hey, is Steve available? Hey, is, you know, this, that, and the other. So, yes, Steve
my
available.
question is, why haven't you sent them my way? My DMs have been empty.
Jealousy, pure hate, pure rage. I can't stand this. Look, I started this show. It's all about me, Steve. You know how we get down around here, right? Yeah, you're invited. Yeah, great. Yeah, you know what? It's part of my thing to help those who are, optically challenged. Is the word I was looking for, right?
Appreciate that.
But I can't have you getting more DMs than me. That's what it is. However, Steve, tell these lovely ladies where they can find you on Instagram so they'll leave me alone.
At Sasquatch Steve Taylor on Instagram.
I follow him, and I only follow 20 because I'm a snob. And so if you're looking for that, click on my follows. Go give him a follow. His content's amazing. He's a great guy. Most eligible bachelor in New Jersey. And we got a banger here, Steve. And thanks for watching EnigmaCast. Hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up for this, all that good stuff. So, Steve, back to the important stuff now, right? So, I thought I had came across a dud, Steve. If you guys don't know how we do it around here, my guests, when I come on, usually I pick a topic, we throw it at each other, and we don't talk about it until this very moment when the recording starts. So, he doesn't know what I researched. I don't know what he looked into. And that's how we get down. Steve, tonight we're talking about the Ruby Creek Bigfoot incident in September of 1941 in British Columbia.
This is a pretty well-known, one of the more well-known Bigfoot cases, old one too. Very early, credible Bigfoot encounter. And
as I typically find myself doing, once I feel like I become a know-it-all, I come across something that makes me feel really stupid because how could I have missed this? Hold that thought till the very, very end, and I'll even tell you more. I don't know how I missed this, but because of something I did right when I first started this channel. It's unbelievable. But anyways, we'll get that as we go. Again, welcome to EnigmaCast. Let's get into it, everybody. So how we do around here, we're going to tell you the when, the where, the who, the what, and the why. And we'll give you the facts, the details, triple verified by 2 sources, and then we'll give each other's opinion at the end, and you can get involved in the comments or in the live chat as we go. So, Steve, let's get into this, buddy. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go, man. Location, Ruby Creek, British Columbia, Steve. You ever been there?
Yep. Never been. Actually, never been up to Canada.
Well, it's about to become America. So there you go, man. When that happens.
That's true.
When we can openly carry our AR-15s across the border, Steve, I really seriously want to go here, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you towards the very end. We've done researches like Oklahoma. Yeah, good stories, and we're not trying to go verify, right? Same thing, Portlock out there in Alaska. Not trying to spend the night in Portlock, right? I want to go to Ruby Creek, and I'll tell you why as we go. Ruby Creek, British Columbia, date September 1941. All right. Now, to give you a little backdrop, Enigmites, if you're not too familiar with Ruby Creek reminded me of a lot based on the research that I was getting into this. It reminded me a lot of the Appalachian Mountains. It really did. Because if you travel the Appalachian Mountain Range, from Georgia all the way up through New Jersey, all the way up to the eastern part of Canada, you'll come across these massive mountain ranges with little towns in the pockets of these, I guess, hollers or areas, right, Steve? And then you'll go on these roads they call switchbacks, where the roads basically are just like this all up and down the mountain. You'll see a house and you're like, okay, I hope I don't break down here because they're going to try to eat me. Just that type of stuff as you go along, right? Ruby Creek actually reminded me of that. And so to give you a quick little high 10,000 view of Ruby Creek is a small remote community in British Columbia, Canada, western part of Canada. It's located near this place called the Fraser River. It's on the Fraser River between a town called Hope and Agassiz, Agassiz. And I'm thinking that's probably a First Nation word, Agassiz, Steve? Yes?
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure, but I know that the area is First Nation and the family involved in the story of First Nation as well. So
Enigmites up in Canada, they call their Native Americans First Nation. We call ours Native Americans, right? So it's tucked along the edge of a dense forest and these huge towering mountains. Actually, I would recommend going on Google Maps and take a look at it. It's impressive. Yeah.
I was saying I did, and it's just like you were saying. It's really just this remote little town nooked away in this mountain range, really heavily forested, and it's just there's the river that goes through, a highway runs alongside it, and then just these little streets, a couple buildings here and there, and that's it.
And this massive mountains and this wilderness and all kinds of fiduciary all along the side. Looks beautiful.
Yep.
And terrifying. So at the same time, right? Just like Latinas. Oh, that's an inside joke, everybody. It's just like inside joke on that. You can figure that out as we go. So, and all you Latinas, if that made you chuckle, leave it in the comments. So here we go. So, also what made Ruby Creek, I would say, interesting or fascinating to me is that how it straddles the best word I can come along with it, man, is that a lot of First Nation lore and First Nation tales are just on the right side of this town. The left side of the town, like I said, is Wawas and gas stations. And it's just, I don't know, man. Like I said, the best feeling or the description I could give it is that it reminds me of the Appalachian Mountain Trail. So that's the where and that's the when, everybody. Go look it up on the Google Maps. Take a look. It's amazing. Now we're going to get into the who, right? So the who, Steve, you know their names off the top of your head? Did you do your homework?
Yeah. It was the Chapman family. It was husband and wife, George and Jeannie, and they had 3 children. I didn't catch the names of the children, but they were ages 9, 7, and 5, just spaced out 2 years apart.
I redacted the names because it's not important. I don't want to put that out there. It's whatever. So they had 3 kids, and that's all I need to know, man. That comes into play here too. And so that's the people that were involved. And in 1941, based on how the town looks now, they lived what's considered off the grid, we would call off the grid today. And I can only imagine what that was like, because I can guarantee you there was no power. They had no power. I don't even know if they had indoor plumbing or indoor water. I didn't really look into it or what but this was basically, if you ever seen that old show, Little House on the Prairie, you ever seen that, Steve? You ever heard of it?
I know. I'm familiar with it. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever actually watched, but
I'm sure your parents love it, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's all they showed when his dad was in the penitentiary. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Steve never knew his dad. Right. So anyways.
Oh my God.
Remote, off the grid, no power, no water.
I actually saw, looking around, pictures of the house from.
Oh, you did?
Way back in the day. Yeah. I can
break
send
it down,
those to
man.
you.
Describe it.
Maybe. It was really basically close to what you said. It was almost looked like a big, large wooden shack for the most part. And it could be, I'm not sure if maybe the pictures were taken some years later, after it had been a little worn down, a little run down. But it wasn't really anything special. It was just this little right in the woods kind of shack. Yeah.
So there is no 911. Man, when you live that remote, you are 911. That's it, man. You break an ankle, you do something, dad's gonna have to hump you out of there or something. Yeah, so there is no 911 out there to call. And so that's the who's involved. Now we're going to tell you, Enigmites, what happened, right? And this is actually a fairly fascinating story. So, early fall, September 1941, George was at work. He was not there. He was not there at the house. Jeannie was there with the 3 children. Jeannie was inside doing some chores, probably preparing the dinner, killing the chicken, doing whatever was going on. In my mind, that's how it plays out. Kids are outside probably throwing dirt at each other because, that's probably just what it was to do on that farm back then. The oldest boy starts making a ruckus or screaming and starts running towards the house. The mother, of course, hypersensitive, hypervigilant, what's going on in the area they live in, comes outside, and the boy starts telling his mother that there is a giant cow coming down the mountain towards them. Did you get that part, Steve?
Yeah, I saw that too.
Right.
The big cow.
A big cow was coming down the side of the mountain towards them. And this is an amazing detail, and I'm going to tell you why. So the mother was a little puzzled, a little startled, because, you know, obviously they know what cows look like, but a big cow coming down the side of the mountain would be unexpected in that area, right? Mm-hmm. And so she takes a few steps, gathers the other children up, looks up, and she sees it. And she actually, what she said was, I'm going to use her eldest son, based on what her eldest son said it was a large cow. When she looked at it, based on later reports, she said she saw a massive bipedal figure coming at her. She could see its hands and its face, and it was covered in brown, about 4-inch long hair from head to toe. Right, Steve? Mm-hmm. And she said the creature's face was black and its hands were black. Now, I'm going to pause this right here and tell you that, and I'm going to say that towards the end, right? So anyways, what she did was she rounded up the kids, freaked out, and she did something that couldn't really figure out why she did it, but she definitely did it. She covered her kids in a blanket, right? And she dragged them back into the house, and she barred basically the door. But she could still be able to look outside. I don't know. I couldn't find if it was a window or, again, if she was looking through the cracks or something through the door. But did you come across that, Steve, as well?
Yeah, I got the blanket part, but I didn't hear them go back into the house. But maybe I'll let you continue on that afterwards if I hear something different. So what I came across is that she's in there, got them covered in the blanket. The creature comes down. It's massive, 7 to 8 feet tall, and they had basically what was a refrigerator back then. I forget what a root cellar is what they had. Mm-hmm. And this thing with one hand rips the door off and then goes inside and flings an 80-pound barrel of pickled herring. Right? I don't know why I think that's funny, but pickled herring, right? Yep. 80 pounds of pickled herring, I guess, because they're, stocking up for the winter. I mean, that's just probably what it was. It yokes it out with one hand and slings to the ground and smashes it, and it's basically sits down and starts eating. Right? Did you get that part? Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I heard it was 55 barrel. Yeah, 55 gallon barrel of fish, and it just came in
55-gallon
no
barrel.
Nothing, just ripped it and smashed it.
And then just sat down like they weren't there. She's watched this supposedly for a solid minute and a half, and it was just sitting there, and she was going through, I think she might have been in shock, and I'll tell you why towards the end. She ruled out that it wasn't a bear, and so when she did that, she decided that it was time for her and the kids to make a break for it, man. She opened up the door, and they ran. They actually ran towards this river. The river, again, the Fraser River. She ran towards this river. Now, I couldn't specifically find out if she was First Nation, but she started heading towards the river south, towards a First Nation village. Mm-hmm. Right? Did you get that, Steve?
I have that family was First Nation.
Okay. Yeah. So
because of a later interview, and I'll get to that later. So
she breaks out towards the river, and then she leaves. Now you got to remember, family, 1941, ain't no cell phones, and even if there was phones, they ain't having one, right? So Georgie comes home later on in the day. Wife and kids are gone. Something has ripped the door off of the root cellar. He sees this barrel smashed and things have eaten and taken. And to his credit, man, he handles this a lot better than I would have, Steve. He determines that something wasn't right, something was wrong, something's in danger. Kids aren't there. But he starts tracking them. Right? So he said
he notices too that there are large humanoid footprints all around too. So he, like you said,
That's a great point.
clearly
Yeah, so
something is not.
something's up, man. He
Clearly
sees these
something's wrong.
large 13, 15-inch, massive footprints that look that had toes on it, and his family's gone. So he tracks his wife's and children's, trail out of there to the river. See that they made a right towards the river, and he deduced at that point they're probably heading towards the village, and he headed down towards the village. Everything was safe. Everything was good. He hooked up with them, and then his wife goes on to tell him that story. Right. So, Steve, have I left anything out yet?
No, I don't think so. Nothing that I saw.
Yeah. So that happened, and I thought that was pretty amazing detail on that. Mm-hmm. So he collects his wife and his kids, and again, these are different times back then, Enigmites. I'm thinking that we can build a shack somewhere else. I'm just saying, we're good in this village here. These are our people, but nope, George is like, we're going back. I was like, okay. Right, Steve?
Yep. Yeah. Why not?
Why not, man? Why not? This happens all the time around here, I guess.
Yeah.
But
what a day. Let's head on back.
But he does something I think is pretty interesting, right? According to the details that I came across, is that he actually convinced a few of the village elders to go with him back there. Something was gone, and they did. Back then, I said, man, the communities back then were a lot more tight knit. Mm-hmm. They didn't know what was going on, but they went up there in numbers, and that's what they did. They went up there to camp it out. Hold on. I'm about to get rich. That's what that means. So, in the South. But anyway, so they go back. People go with him. They set up shop, and this thing does not disappoint. It came back again from what I could tell, at least 7 to 10 days, it came back again, Steve.
I heard at least a week that it kept returning. Yep.
It kept returning at night, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. It showed itself during the day and the first time around, but came back at night the other times. And again, I'm going to pause it right here. Enigmites, notice they haven't called this thing a Bigfoot or a Wampapamba or whatever they would call it in the First Nation. They haven't called it anything on that, right? But it's funny to me that the Bigfoot, like we talk about cryptids on this channel, and one of the determinations that we try to do is that we rule out things along the way. At a baseline, we always say on the channel, something happened. Now we're going to talk about what that possibly could be, but something happened, right? So this thing, in my opinion, is showing a higher level than normal intelligence of a bear, because a grizzly bear knows no chill. They know they just don't fear anything, right? So whether the mom was home with the kids or the dad home, it's ruled by its gut. It would have just came down there back and forth, right? Agreed, Steve? Mm-hmm. Would you say this, based on what we've done, that this is definitely like we did in Portlock? This wasn't a bear, right?
No.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bear, and even without that, the footprints.
Yeah.
They were not bear prints.
Yeah, exactly.
They were humanoid,
For sure.
So it was definitely not a bear.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bear. Second thing I'll rule out is 1941, 100% they had some types of wolves up there. This was not a pack of wolves. Wolves aren't letting the kids walk away, right? And again, that's not going to happen.
They're not breaking down doors and smashing barrels either.
Yeah, for sure. And so they're done. Third thing I'll rule on this is that it wasn't a mountain lion. Mountain lions are massive, 400 to 600 pounds for sure. They are intelligent. They will stalk you and look at you. But again, like my boy just said over here, it's not ripping the door off and flinging a 50-gallon pound of, salted Merkel or whatever they were eating there, man. And it's definitely, if you've never seen a mountain lion track, it's going to be as big as your hand, but it's going to be the biggest cat paw print you would probably see in the North America. And this guy could track his wife to the river. They're going to know it's not a mountain lion, right? So, So those things were out. Now, here's where, again, I think the story's fascinating. He stuck it out for a week, 7 days. Must have been a nerve-wracking event. But he ended up, eventually, Steve, having enough of the encounter on that. Mm-hmm. And they left, right?
Yep.
And so it doesn't really say where they went. Oh, it did. It said they just moved to farther south towards the village and reestablished their homestead, is what I came across. So, did Steve as well?
I didn't see where they went to. I just heard that they left, and That was it. They never
They
left it behind them.
They never went back. So, but this is one thing that they, so real quick, I'm going to go and tell you that this is one things that they did that hits a check mark for me. George called the sheriff, right? He eventually got word to the sheriff, right? And again, if you ever watch this channel, there's one of the things around here that helps us determine whether or not this was a legitimate event or not. Not necessarily that the sheriff was involved, is that he gives his whole name, right? So, Deputy Sheriff Joe Dunn from Bellingham, Washington. Now that is America, right? So, he crossed the border into British Columbia after getting word from Georgie or passed down through, however they got the mail going back and forth about the incident. He loaded up and went up there to investigate it, right? And I think this is really important to know, right? That he went up there to investigate this incident. And throughout the entire life of Joe Dunn, the physical evidence that he collected that we're about to tell you about has never been debunked or disputed. He never denied it as well. So, Steve, do you know the fascinating fact about Sheriff Joseph Dunn in this thing? Fun fact for Enigmites?
No, I don't think so.
This was actually the first known U.S. law enforcement officer to investigate a Sasquatch encounter. Was Deputy Sheriff Joseph Dunn. The first time ever that a U.S. law enforcement agent ever investigated a Bigfoot incident was 1941.
There we go.
Ruby Creek.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was amazing. So, this is what he found. He went up there, right? The physical evidence that he found. He treated it like, and again, it's important to know that he treated it like a crime scene. He specifically said he took this very serious. He treated it like a crime scene, right? So, during a crime scene investigation, he took pictures and gathered physical evidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So his determination is that he found 17-inch long footprints, humanoid in nature. He said it was clearly bipedal, clearly worked on 2 feet. He also found around the Chapman property near the house and the other creature, and in the direction that the creature had fled, and also around a 4 to 5 foot high fence. That he stepped over this fence like it was no problem, right? He clearly looked that he just, over the fence that was 5 feet, right? So lending how tall it was into basically confirming her that it was an 8 foot tall something, right?
Mm-hmm.
He also noted in his report that the entire property had been ransacked and that the 55 gallon barrel of salted fish had been broken in half with the lid torn apart. Not from a bear. That's not how a bear would do it. There was no claw marks on it. He said basically it looked like somebody went like a can and just opened it. That's what it looked like.
Yep.
Just popped it in half, right?
And that no tools were used, and it was just ripped in half like you said.
Also, he said that the fish that were up there, based on the remains that he found, were partially eaten. Like something would bite it and throw it away, where a bear would just go, right? And he says that when he went inside the house, that some items in the house had looked like things had been disturbed or rummaged through. But he did say it, however, based on fairness, that this could have been after they left, and you can't rule out somebody just passed through, right? You can't rule it out. He says, but it did look like something had been moved. Something went in there and moved it around, and he also noted that it wasn't torn apart like a bear would go in there and just ramage. And he also, this is something that I thought was really important. That I never seen another Bigfoot investigator put in there. There was no animal dung around the house. No bear dung, no deer dung, no other dung, period. So there was nothing, just letting it go. No cow dung or nothing, right? So that was pretty, I thought that was pretty good, right? We never heard that before, right? That no one put that in the report, right? Yeah, it's nothing was pooping up here. Right. So,
which is, I mean, makes sense. I mean, wild animals, they go nonstop.
Nonstop, right? He says, yeah. So there was no
in the area.
Yeah. He said there was no gun, right? Yeah, right. So I thought that was cool, right?
Yeah.
He did take the first plaster cast down there. He took a plaster cast of one of the footprints, and as an important detail, all serious Bigfoot researchers will take a cast if they come across it, even if it's like a trophy. I've seen a couple, man. They're amazing, right? He did the same thing. Now he says, however, over time, the original cast was lost, but photographs still remain of it, and they were picked up by these other researchers, right? So
yeah, I was gonna say I saw something that said that he kept the cast and it reportedly got broken and thrown away at some point in the mid 50s. I have here. So,
yeah,
but yeah.
And so he also put down here in his report that I think was very impressive. This is a very good report, right? He said there was no sign of costume tracks, like somebody got dressed in a costume. He said there were no traces of vehicles or any indicator of human trickery. So he ruled out fiduciary enigmas. There was no fiduciary going on up here. Something went down, right? Wasn't me and this guy dressed up, in the Scooby-Doo coming down, right? Trying to get the gold from the land, right? None of that. He also said that her name. He also said that Jeannie. Was that her name, Jeannie, Steve?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jeannie Chapman was found to be genuine in sound mind and body. Her fear was genuine as well, and she proposed no exaggerations into her story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he even gave an account of the adult's mental health state on went down. Man, that's a good report, man. It really is, man.
That's a very thorough report.
It's a very thorough report right there, man. So he laid it down there as well. In fact, his report was so thorough that it was used by these other two famous Sasquatch researchers, and I apologize, I've never heard of these people before, but John Green and Renee DeHanden. I don't even know. That's probably a dude named Renee, probably from the French-speaking side of Canada. And John Green was up there. I don't know who John Green is, but he went up there, and so it was also, and based on their reporting and their investigation, these two in later detail or in later addendums to his report said that her story never changed. It remained too consistent, too detailed, and it was grounded in real fear to dismiss as a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, Enigmites. She didn't know what she was looking at. She never called it a Bigfoot. She never heard of a Bigfoot before. And before this time, he was the very first ever, law enforcement agency to do a Bigfoot, investigation. There was no blueprint for her to fake it. She didn't so you can't say, oh, she's just talking about a Bigfoot story. No, she was like the OG Bigfoot story. Yeah. Right, Steve?
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Steve. So, Steve, thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I got more to add. If
I do. No, add it. Throw it. Come on.
There's some things. So, one of the things that have you ever heard of Ivan Sanderson?
No.
He's I hadn't heard of him before doing research either, but apparently he's a pretty famous.
Dropped him like you went to high school with him. Ivan Sanderson.
Yeah, okay. My buddy Ivan.
Ivan.
He's a famed, very early cryptozoologist. He's written a lot of books on Bigfoots, aliens, all sorts of things. He, after this had happened, he interviewed George and Jeannie. And so one thing that he noted, and it's funny that I had seen, was you had talked about earlier about the blanket, how he put the blanket over the children. You weren't sure why. So he asked her, because apparently, let me find my note here. During the interview, he asked her if he used the blanket to prevent the children from seeing the Bigfoot, because supposedly there's a First Nation belief, Native American belief, that if you make eye contact, if you and a Bigfoot or Sasquatch make eye contact, it's bad luck, like really bad luck. Okay. So he asked her, he said, did you do that so the kids wouldn't make eye contact with the Sasquatch? And she said she had heard that belief, but she did it because she just wanted to hide them just in case, and get them out of there.
Right. Okay.
But the ironic thing is, and I don't know if you're going to get into this afterwards.
No, the ironic thing is you're safe.
What was that?
You can't.
I only got to worry about one eye.
Steve, look at that. Like this. Steve, look over there, Steve. See what's going on. Right. You're safe, dog.
So bad.
You're good. You're good.
You're the worst.
You're good, bro.
You're terrible. You know that? Oh my God. No, but I was gonna say, do you know the fate of the Chapman family? Were you gonna get into that?
I do not. No.
Okay, so he asked that, and ironically enough, within a few years of the incident happening, the two the two Chapman boys drowned, and the daughter died of an illness, and then George and Jeannie drowned in a boating accident.
Well, now I'm depressed. What?
Yeah,
what?
You didn't?
No, I didn't know that.
That's a big part of it.
What?
Yes, they all passed away soon after the event happened.
What kind of happy story is this? No, that's sad. It's terrible.
It's a very terrible story. So the irony,
wow.
That's why Sanderson later on was shocked that even though, based on this belief, he thought maybe he was, the family's protecting from the bad luck, and it hit him anyway.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy.
That's weird, bro. I mean, we're safe. Yeah. We're not First Nation, so we're good. That stuff doesn't work on white people. Everybody knows that.
No, of course not. No, of course not.
Voodoo and all that crap, that doesn't work on me. Get out of here with that stuff. Get out of that noise.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll throw a crucifix.
That's the story of the blanket.
I'll throw Jesus right at your face. Right, don't work on me. Dang, man, that is sad. Okay, well.
Yeah, so that's that.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, man. That took a little of the fun out of this for me. Man. I didn't know the whole family ended up going down.
That was one of the first things I heard when I looked up Ruby Creek.
No,
yeah,
Steve.
Yeah.
What the hell is your algorithm looking like, man? What's going on?
What
the hell are you searching? What are you doing?
You always bring me on for the scary stories,
yeah,
so
I do,
they
man.
all have a better ending.
Yeah, that is true, man. I'm noticing a pattern. Death is usually involved with these cryptids that we do, except for the pugwudgie one, man. The pugwudgie one is pretty decent, man, where nobody actually got murked on no pugwudgies were hurt in the filming of this documentary, right? Dang, all right. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So that was the one thing I wanted to bring up was that. The second thing was when she was describing the Sasquatch to Sanderson, just like you had said, tall, dark features, the brown hair, the long brown hair. But one thing she noted that stood out to me was she noted that it appeared to be male, but she couldn't tell if it had male genitalia because there was long hair covering the groin area. And I thought to myself, all right, well, I guess her carnal instinct picked up as soon as she saw this big hulking thing, and she's thinking she wants to get freaky with a Sasquatch. She's checking them out.
You know what, man? Like I got something for you on that too. At the very end, I got something. I'll get into this in a second, man. Hold that thought. We'll come back to that, man.
I know. I will hold that thought because now I'm curious to what you were going to say about that.
Yeah.
But,
so yeah. Because now I really want to know what your browser algorithm is. You're talking about like Bigfoot freak offs down there. Yeah. So. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. No, I didn't know that either. So she verified that it needed some manscaping going on down there. But okay, sure. Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And the third thing that I've note was that also when talking to it, that George had mentioned that it made this on the nights that it had returned. You could hear that it was making this like loud, almost gurgling sound. Like that was kind of like its call or whatever noise it was making. And so he reenacted the sound for Ivan a couple times. And Ivan made note that what he found very fascinating was he had interviewed a couple of men from California previously about a Bigfoot encounter at a different time, and they described hearing the same exact sound. So we thought it was very interesting and brought a lot of credit to the idea that two separate encounters, two separate parts of the world, and they're giving the same exact description of the creature. Like, it's not like they could have conspired together. This is 1940s.
Yeah, no shot. No shot. Right?
So he found that to be very interesting. These specific details were so exactly the same.
And that's another good point. We can add. We can tie that into this. That's actually, I didn't know that. That's actually really good, bro. You're on a roll, son. You're on a roll.
That's right.
You're going to be engaged pretty soon. I can feel it, man. You're on a roll, son. I can tell it. What he probably was describing, man, when you brought in that Northern California, man, is the samurai sounds. It was basically, they call samurai chatter, man, was a famous tape that was floating around for a while. We were talking about the clicks and the pops and all of their stuff as well. And again, if this sheriff crossed over from, Washington, it wouldn't be that far. I mean, back in the day, it's still everywhere. It was like a 6-month trip, depending on the weather. So yeah, that there's no way they could have coordinated that, man. There's no way they could have went into it. It was just way too remote. No, that's good, man. So I got a couple of videos on the samurai sounds, the Sierra Sound samurai chatter or whatever. Okay, well, now, Steve, you know how we do. You got anything else to add?
That's it for my notes. Yep.
Right. Good story. Now we'll get into it, Steve.
Yep.
I'm gonna move up the believe to not believe section of it, and then because I got something I want to add. I got something I want to add that's really important to this story, as a matter of fact, man. As we always do with you, Steve, believe or not believe.
It's you know me. I always am on the skeptical side, right? Of course, I always am. But I mean, this seems to be very well documented. Multiple eyewitnesses.
Yes.
We have this report, this police report, which is very thorough. It's not like he just was like, he just wrote something down and very thorough. We have interviews with the family. We have, by famed researchers. And it's not as crazy as, say, the Mississippi Dog Man, when it was a 2-week standoff where we fired off 1,000 rounds every night.
Especially special traps were made. Yeah. Right.
No, it was really more just an early, simple encounter, which I think gives it a bit more credibility than most. So, me, I'm still going to keep my number low, but for the most part, you know what, I'll give it a 20% possibility of being real.
That's a good number for this guy. Got 20%. For me, right?
Yeah. All
right, Steve, ask me, dog. 100% it's real. 100% this really happened. I am like, and I will tell you why, man. 100% why this absolutely went down. That was the most detailed police report I've ever read, that was ever written. Even to date, that was the most. It had more detail in it than the siege of Hanobia. Police reports did in it as well. There wasn't any police reports in Portlock because they all got killed. But if there was, it would have had more receipts than that as well. The sheriff's name is documented. Where he came from is documented. He never backed down. Physical evidence. I was actually blown away by that report. Right when he wrote it down. That's number one. Number two, there was no hoax for them to copy, for her to mimic. Right. Number three, there's no reason for them to do. There's no reason to do it. There's no reason for them to do it. And in fact, when she was asked if it was a Sasquatch, she didn't even know what that meant. She's like, "What are you talking? I don't even know what that is." Right. But bro, here's what put me over here's what nailed this for me. The whole time I was reading and doing this, and I even had an extra day to do it. When I was reading and doing it, something about this Ruby Creek area that was being described, and this river, I don't know why this daggone river kept popping up, man. The Fraser River, right? I was like, man, where have I heard that? Where have I heard? I've never been to British Columbia, right? I don't even know if I like Canadians, to be honest with you. I hate Canadian bacon. If bacon's not burnt from the Waffle House, I don't want nothing to do with it, right? So, I don't know. I like Crown Royal. That's kind of Canadian, right?
There you go. Yeah.
I'm just joking. I don't hate you Canadians. I love you guys. I love our future Americans. But anyways, man, so the Fraser River, Steve, like, man, that was like, man, where have I heard that? Where have I heard from that? And this out of a thing came into my mind. The Seraphim Long abduction of 1871 was
That's your favorite story, I know.
That, Steve, that is, right? Did you know that?
I know that's your favorite.
That is my favorite all-time Bigfoot story that I've ever heard and read, and it happened near Ruby Creek on the Fraser River in 1871. If you don't know anything about the Seraphim Long abduction, I'm going to do something I normally don't put the effort to do it. At the end of this video, you'll see a recommended video. I'm going to put that Seraphim Long video in there. We covered it. Go to our channel and watch it. The Seraphim Long abduction in 1871 took place around the Fraser River. And I guarantee, I can't 100% guarantee it, but there's good money that the First Nation village that they fled to was the same village that Seraphim Long was at when she got abducted by a Bigfoot. And if you know anything about the Seraphim Long abduction case, the Bigfoot got her pregnant in that story, right? And she never redacted it. So when she was saying that she couldn't make out its junk or not, that led me back to it like, well, don't rule that out. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't rule that out.
That's funny.
And I have forgotten the name of Seraphim Long's tribe. It's in the Seraphim Long video. Again, it'll pop up at the end. You go watch that and do it. But they had stories. And it's not just Seraphim Long. There is a long-standing oral history within the First Nation tribes of these Bigfoots, what they would call hairy wild men, abducting their women. A long-standing, you know, situation, a story about it, right? And that's when it clicked together, man. And that's what sold me on this story. That's why I was like, God, I can't believe it. What are the odds? What are the freaking odds, right? And again, that's why I thought to myself, like, why have I never heard of this story before? Why have I never heard of Ruby Creek? And so thank you for sending this to look into, Enigmites out there. I would have done this a lot sooner if I would have known that there was a connection in it. And so here's some details real quick of the Seraphim Long. She was on what was called the Chehalis Reserve in British Columbia, right? And so she was abducted. And she was held up in the mountains for over a year by this Bigfoot and his elderly parents, right? And she was eventually released, and you can go see what happens at the end. She never recanted her story or whatever, and there were several eyewitnesses about it. And her story, I'm not going to spoil the episode for you, was also one of the first written, you know, documentations for like a documented tale of an abduction story that went down on it. But that's where it happened, in the same daggone area in the Fraser River. So yeah, Steve, when we take Canada and we can take our guns up there, we're going to make this road trip. I'm telling you, man.
All right.
I've got to see it, man. I have to get in that area, and I'm going to find a way to get on that reservation. If I have to sacrifice you at the gates to do it, you got to take it for the team, Steve. We're doing this for science, son. Is that right?
As long as you do it on Instagram Live.
That's it, man. Exactly, right? We'll stream it, everything.
Watch me going out on stream.
Yeah. 1871, a solid freaking, 60 years before, more than that, right? No, yeah, way more. 100, like 100.
71,
60, 70 years, right? Yeah. No.
Yeah, 70 years.
70 years later, right? 70 years. 70-year gap difference in that area, right? And also, this is the way my mind works too. Just hear me out.
I can't wait to hear what you're going to say. I can't wait to hear this.
What if this was a hybrid? What if this was a hybrid of the Seraphim Long? What if it was or whatever? I don't even know, man. Like I said, I don't even know. But I do know that in the tales in that area, a lot of the village elders will tell you that these things have their own personalities. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. They can speak our language. They choose not to. That's why they can mimic. So when you hear those hoots and hollering and those knocking in the woods, they're messing with you. That's not them. Or you're talking to a demon. And again, when people do wood knocks, here you go, Enigmites. I'm gonna tell you why you might find this hard to believe, but I can rub people the wrong way.
No,
right?
No, right? Joe, you're a sweetheart.
I don't know if it's my delivery, or I don't know if it's I have a quirk where when I'm telling somebody something that I think is stupid, I chuckle, and that makes it worse. Tomato, tomato. But I have some really good Bigfoot researcher friends. I really do, man. Chuck Larson up in New Jersey, Sasquatch Steve Taylor up in New Jersey, my boy Harley Owens down in Tennessee. We just met, what was his name? We made friends with my guy in Ohio. I can't remember his name right now. I forgot his name. What's his name? Tim Gayhart. Tim Gayhart from Ohio. I'm a good guy once you get to know me and get to talk to me on it.
Very few people get to that stage, though. They usually
look, man, you got to be strong to be my friend, all right? Because I will test you. Look, you will go far. I will improve your life. I'm telling you right now, man, I will improve your life. You will be a lot richer, a lot cooler. I'm the ultimate wingman. I make all ugly guys look good, period, right? I close deals all the time. But you have to get past them first few minutes, right? And so I've reached out to Bigfoot researchers that don't want to come on my show. And here might be why. Here might be a reason why. And no disrespect to those guys out there. I wish you all the well. Tree knocks are stupid. Tree knocks are them communicating with each other in those environments, the same way special forces communicate with each other out there in the field. Hand signals and knocks. Chuck Larson told us a great story how he was on a research. He was on this lady's back porch. Him and another researcher were sitting there. He heard some knocks off to his left, a couple knocks off to the right. The Bigfoot on the right was letting the Bigfoot on the left know how many people were there based on the knocks. So when you see people go into the wilderness, especially the Appalachian Mountains, and you guys take a little billy bat in there and you're banging a tree, that's doing nothing. These animals are way more intelligent than you're giving them credit. They know, look, there's another hairless one over there banging on a tree. Yo, Steve, mess with him. Do some hoots, right? Yeah, they're messing with you, bro. That's all they're doing, bro. There's 100% that they don't communicate that way unless they're doing it tactically, for lack of a better word. However, I will say this. Enigmites, do not ever knock on wood, period. There's a famous saying going, I hope, hey, Steve, hope you get that job. And Steve will say, yeah, knock on wood. Do you know where the knock on wood came from? Do you know where it came from? So here, I'm going to tell you where it came from.
Let me hear it.
It came from Celtic and Celtic druids, right? And so what they would do is that they would make a wish and they would knock on a tree to summon a forest spirit, aka a demon, to fulfill that task. And once that task was fulfilled, the demon would come and collect his payment for it. So when you say knock on wood, you're summoning a demon. You have no idea why you're saying that. You have no idea why you're doing it. So don't ever do that. Your words have powers. And that's also why when you're in the Appalachian mountain range, you got to be a nut. You shouldn't even whistle. We tell people don't even whistle up there when you're in the mountain. They tell you not to whistle at night on Indian reservations. So you're out there banging on a tree, dumbass, right? Anything's going to show up, right? So yeah. So these things are way more smarter than you think, and tree knocks are not the way they can do it. So the Seraphim Long and the First Nation people and the Native Americans will tell you they can speak our language just fine. Harley Owens think they're speaking, and we've heard this before, but they're speaking a version of Latin and Hebrew, making that of some type of mixture, all you will, but they can speak our language and the First Nation language. And so, and the Seraphim Long story, which I believe is 100% true, is that they are sexually compatible with us, right? Mm-hmm. And there's one more thing, Steve, that lends me credibility to this, right? Is that there is a phenomenon that seems to take place with First Nation women and strange things, period. And I can tell you that, right? Have you heard this before? Have you heard this?
No.
So I think I've told you this before. If not Enigmites, it's a tragedy. There's one stat that the FBI does not keep, and that is the abductions of Native American or First Nation women. And that I find that to me extremely odd, because the FBI has a lot of people don't understand how. I have a friend who is a 100% Navajo out there in Las Vegas. We chat occasionally. He left the res a long time ago, and he will back me up on this, is that federal agents, FBI, they have jurisdiction on tribal lands. If they want to come on there and investigate, they can. You can't stop them. So to say that the FBI doesn't have jurisdiction is a lie. Now, yes, there are tribal police and all that stuff, but the FBI supersedes all that. The FBI can walk on any reservation and arrest anybody anytime they want. But they don't track this statistic. And I thought that was weird. The second thing that I thought was weird is that there is an unusually large number of First Nation women and Native American women who just go missing. They just go missing. And again, it's not a pale face driving on your res in a pickup truck snatching these girls. Some people will say, oh, it's not it. And the reason why I know it's not it is because Trump signed an executive order about 3 weeks ago, and it got no press coverage, but you can go look it up, telling the FBI to go find out what's happening to these women. And the chiefs on this reservations are attempting to, and it's going to fail, block them from doing the investigations. So something weird goes on in relation to these cryptids and Native American and First Nation women. And the fact that the FBI doesn't track that, or up until this point wasn't investigating it, takes me right down the Men in Black, Smithsonian, Freemason, weirdo, whatever stuff, and it adds credibility to it. And here's the last thing, that if you've ever watched any of our episodes before, I'm sure you guys have, especially in the 1855 Choctaw Bigfoot War in Oklahoma and the Siege of Hanobia. I am usually a live or and let live kind of guy, but there's two things that happened in those accounts, and Steve will tell you, is that would make me want to like, well, we got to kill them now. And Steve, what was it? You remember?
No, refresh my memory.
Well, you told me they murked some 80-year-old woman in the forest for no reason, right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
What was she doing?
In Hanobia, she went off one day out in the woods and she was never seen again.
Yeah, so
it was right around the area that their farm was.
Nana can't go for a walk in the woods without.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Yeah, and again, and in the Choctaw Bigfoot War, they were stealing women and girls and kids, and they were eating them.
Yep.
So look, okay, you got that. You just earned yourself a bullet, and a lot of them, right? Free delivery. And the good news is I serve all of them hot, so you're good to go, man. So, yeah, and so when I hear these stories, Seraphim Long actually survived her abduction story and went on to tell it. So when I hear these stories of First Nation women and Native American women getting murked up and disappearing, again, the rational mind will say, oh, it was another man. It was a serial, killer or whatever, driving down the road or whatever, a target of opportunity or whatever. I go right to Bigfoots and Skinwalkers and freaking Dogmen. That's right where I go with it, right? Okay. So in the spirit of being all encompassing, we just get them all, Steve. You understand? Anybody that takes a Choctaw, anybody that takes First Nation, anybody that takes whatever, you get a bullet. That's how it is, man. Leave the women alone, man. That's it. Dudes are fair game. When you see guys in the woods wearing Kevlar and ARs and night vision, looking for Bigfoots and looking for Dogmen, all right, then. But if you're just murking women and kids, man, no, we can't have that, man. No, we can't have it. Agreed, Steve?
I agree.
Yeah, man, because God gave us the earth. You know what I'm saying? That's how it works. Sorry, boys. Sorry, boys. But anyway, Steve, so fun fact, same place, my favorite Bigfoot story encounter ever took place, Seraphim Long incident, Fraser River. Makes me love this story even more. I'm super excited. Man, it was amazing. I got a smile on my face. Look at that, Steve, right?
I can see that.
I haven't smiled this much
right now.
Yeah, I haven't smiled this much since you lost that eye. You know what I'm saying? Right? So yeah, man, I'm excited, man. This story was amazing, Enigmites. And as you do, I haven't done this in a while, but as we normally have done in the past, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you go and read this on your own. Look up some of the stuff on your own. The Ruby Creek, British Columbia Bigfoot incident, 1941. The sheriff's name again was Sheriff Joe Dunn from Bellingham, Washington. Joseph Dunn was his name. Great information, great stuff. My man over here is probably given the highest rating he's ever given, 20%. I'm 115%. I know it's fact. I know it's true, right? I'm 100% in on this, man. An amazing story, Steve. Steve, your thoughts on the story, Steve?
like you said, it's aside from the fact that it's just an entertaining story.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, it's almost groundbreaking. You know, it's really such an early Bigfoot tale encounter, and it's so well documented. You know, no other stories. I'm sure there are plenty of encounters before that, but this is really the one that, as you mentioned, was documented so well. And again, not just by that amazing police report, but you had all these famous, at the time, Bigfoot hunters and researchers go out and investigate them themselves. Ivan, the two guys that you listed before, like, it was big. It was big.
It was a big deal, man. It was a big deal.
Yeah. And now hearing this, you know, how it happened right down the street from the Seraphim Long. I mean,
right down the street, dog. Yeah, right down the street. So yeah, man, look, man, we are going to Ruby Creek, bro. It's amazing, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm pumped up on it. I'm geeked, man. I'm definitely geeked on that, man. So
yeah.
Anyway, so that's our show tonight, Enigmites. Do us a favor, hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, leave us any comments down there if what you think that's going on. Again, at the end of this video, you will see the Seraphim Long video that we did pop up. Go watch it, look at it. It's amazing. Ties right into this area. Wow. Give myself heartbeats over here, Steve. Give myself heartbeats, all right? So, and you know how we do around here, Steve? You got anything else?
That's it.
All right, nerds, you know how we do. That's all you get for $1. And we're out.
Subscribe now and turn on the notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.